3 out of 4 families are touched by Alzheimer's. One of them has been mine. How about you? Dr. Arnold Bresky is my new hero, and he was talking about Alzheimer's. I don't know anybody, frankly, who hasn't in some form been touched by Alzheimer's. I know my own family has been touched several times by Alzheimer's, and it's a very, very difficult thing to go through, and it's a very difficult thing to anticipate for yourself, because we don't know. What are the incidents, Doctor, of Alzheimer's in the United States?
Well, first of all, in Alzheimer's, I want you to understand, it is the #1 public health issue, Alzheimer's and caregiving, not only in the United States, the whole world over this next century. We have never lived this long. And so people died of heart disease, cancer, and they never showed the gene. So we know the gene for Alzheimer's. And so as people age, they will show the severe brain aging. At 85, the incidence of Alzheimer's is 1 in 2. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. 70% of people who have dementia have Alzheimer's disease. I make the diagnosis of dementia every 6 seconds. Someone dies of Alzheimer's every 6 minutes. There are 5.3 million people with Alzheimer's in America today, and Martha, that will double in 5 years and double in 5 years thereafter.
When you give me those statistics, it's a little scary and it can be a little depressing. But you were a comedian.
Yes.
You were a comedian in the Catskills.
Exactly.
And then you became an OBGYN, and you studied to be a rabbi, and now you're doing all this. So you've had quite an incredible life already. And do you think that that's really just changing jobs and changing interests and
it's kept my brain alive. And so every day I try to do something new. And everyone has to do that, or the brain starts pruning itself of its dendrites. And without dendrites, we cannot function. And the only way to get new dendrites is doing new, exciting, challenging intellectual work. We have the data, we see it on brain scans, but people as they get older want to do the comfortable, what they did before, and little by little their brain atrophies.
And one of the problems with doing new and exciting things is even though your brain is not ready to atrophy, sometimes your body is. So you can't necessarily get up and go to Disneyland or even get on a bus and go to the library sometimes because you're physically unwell. What can you do if you're just really not as mobile as you'd like to be?
Well, the 4 pillars of brain health is physical activity, mental activity, social activity, and good cardiovascular health. I go into nursing homes, people in wheelchairs, and I get them to doing exercises, lifting weights. There is something that we could do with every person at any stage. And once we do that, they grow mitochondria. And what that does is give the person energy so they can get up out of the wheelchair and move. Because when we walk, there are new stem cells, growing brain cells in our brain because of a growth hormone. So that's what's happening. These people become debilitated and frail. So frailty is a risk factor for Alzheimer's.
Now, you told me that our brains start to deteriorate at age 50.
Correct.
So we need to start thinking right now about what we're going to do and what we want to change in advance. We've got to look ahead. I know that when I was 20, I started putting eye moisturizer around my eyes. And I'm really glad I started that when I was 20. Because
medicine.
It really has made a difference. But that was something that I was vain, I guess, and I really cared about it. And if I say, I want to be clicking here, so I better start doing some things now and stop doing the same thing every night and watching the same TV shows and making the same food.
Everyone watching this show, their #1 fear as they get older is cancer. Their #2 fear is memory loss. This is true throughout the country, throughout the world. Cancer is coming down because people are not smoking as much. Memory loss is going through the ceiling. Without understanding, there could be no action. Ignorance is too expensive. That's my motto.
Tell me, how on earth did a man who delivered 10,000 babies after he'd already been a comedian in the Catskills end up giving speeches every single week practically, or almost every single day sometimes?
Well, that goes back to my roots in Brooklyn. I was going to be a rabbi. I went to yeshiva. And I learned that I had to repair the world. That was my job. And I had to do 613 good deeds. And so for me, the way to repair the world is to increase the quality of life and reduce suffering. So I became a doctor, and I went to Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx, New York, and I had 4 years psychiatric training there. It's the only medical school that has that. So I practiced a psychiatric, but I love to laugh, and so I ended up as an obstetrician gynecologist because that's the only...
A lot of laughs
involved. People are having a baby, see, so it's a pleasure. But I wanted the husbands involved because I was medicating the woman and the baby was getting it, and it was, to me, wrong, immoral. And so I brought the husband in the delivery room. The Bradley husband coached natural childbirth. And believe it or not, I ended up delivering almost 10,000 babies because people loved that experience. And I made it happen with birth centers and everything else. But my babies are going to live to 90 to 100. So I decided I still had to repair the world, but to help my babies with the quality of life.
Now, let me go back to something, because this is very interesting. Your babies, the babies that you've delivered over the years, you have discovered because of improved nutrition, health care, all sorts of things. Those babies are going to live far longer than anybody ever expected.
Exactly.
Now, this is interesting, I think, because I'm a baby boomer. And I can't speak for all baby boomers, but I think that we told ourselves that we weren't going to get old. We grew up with parents and grandparents who, by the time they were 60, were behaving old. And my husband is over 60, doesn't even seem to be 50. I hope I don't behave like I'm 30. But the idea is that somehow we got it in our minds. Maybe it was from the 60s and the love children, and we're going to stay young forever. But it's hard to do that. And we realize suddenly we can't just decide to stay young forever. We've got to do something about that.
That's right. Alzheimer's, I and Dr. Peter Whitehouse, the most prominent researcher in Alzheimer's in the world from Case University, we're trying to teach people that Alzheimer's is a form of severe brain aging.
You said something very powerful when you started all this, and I want to go back to it. At yeshiva,
yes,
when you were told that you how many good things you have to do?
Every Jew
has
to get into heaven. We have to do 613 good deeds.
Okay. And
God counts them. But I say 614 in case I miscounted.
In case you miscounted, you want to cover this. Okay. So and I would assume that comes from a genuine place. It's something in your heart. You get as much from doing that as the people.
Exactly. When a person does good deeds, their soul benefits. See, I speak about the soul, the spirit all the time. And so when I help another human being, that's why I do all these talks. I never charge because I want people to change their behavior. And so if I don't charge, they will come, and they do.
Dr. Arnold Bresky, please make sure that you check out his website at mybraintune.com. Good man, good advice. Check it out.
Thank you.